Omprakash. I'm a metallurgical sophomore in National Institute of Technology, Surathkal. And I'm a huge fan of nanomaterials, and I think the future should lie in nanomaterials. And I'm also very interested and would like to make a career in something in between material science and ML. And today I'm going to give you a brief introduction of graphene as a material and why it's such a buzzword in material science. So graphene. Graphene has been a term that has been used by almost every material scientist in the past maybe 20, 30 years. But to give you what graphene is exactly, let's start at where it all began. So in 2005, graphene was first fabricated using a mechanical method called as the Scotch tape technique. Basically, graphene is nothing but a 2D allotrope of carbon, uh, the starting material of almost all carbon materials could be traced back to graphene. So the basic uh, material that graphene could be easily extracted from is graphite. And so graphite is nothing but stacks of graphene layers. And why is graphene called a 2D material? Because it's only one atom thick. So it has only two dimensions, basically. We don't think about the atom thickness as another dimension. So if I have to tell you what graphene exactly is, it's basically a honeycomb structure, which has 6 carbon in its rings. You could think of it as somewhat like an organic benzene structure, but it's an inorganic material totally. Um, so the fantastic properties of graphene, if I could list out very quickly, is that it's a perfect semiconductor, which means like the valence band is exactly touching the conduction band. It's also the strongest material ever to be tested, and it's almost 5 times more stronger than steel itself. And it's 5 times more thermally conductive than copper, and it's also 99.9% transparent. But please do make note, this is pure graphene. And it also is, you could say, sufficiently reactive with oxygen and nitrogen, enough for it to be used for doping purposes. And I could easily say that it has revolutionized material science research from the last 2 decades. But the only catch is that it's only in theory. So there are many difficulties in ease and fabrication up till now. However, if I could draw your attention to this recent breakthrough from MIT, it's that transparent graphene electrodes were created. So basically, the problem was that pure graphene was about 99% transparent, and that was very useful to make solar cells which are ultra light and also not visible. So they could be placed anywhere without hindering aesthetic design too. But the problem was that pure graphene could not be formed on an industrial scale. Usually, graphene is produced by some process called as chemical vapor deposition. And chemical vapor deposition was not an efficient method industrially because it's costly. So now people at MIT have found out a new way of creating graphene, which uses common polymer industrial processes. And hence, I think right now, graphene is at its final stage where it will start revolutionizing even industries. How I got interested in this material and why it's so fascinating to me. So first of all, as I am a material science student, I was always very interested in nanotechnology. And I think it was only a matter of time before I heard of graphene. And I have been researching about it for so long now that it's almost there everywhere right now. So firstly, I heard it to be the electronics substitute for silicon for transistors. And then it went on to become wearable electronics. And then it was stronger than steel and so on and so forth. So as I told before, graphene has a honeycomb structure, and it's basically sp2 hybridized carbon. Basic chemistry, there's nothing very chemically complex about graphene. And as I said, it's 5 times more thermally conductive than copper and 5 times stronger than steel. Though there is a small issue with graphene being a perfect semiconductor, so the switching ratios are too hard to attain. It is still being tried to be used as an alternative to silicon, and I think it's only a matter of time before graphene completely replaces silicon and we get our first nanoscale transistors. Single atom transistors might be useful in the future, but for now, I find the most exciting application for graphene is in wearable electronics and also as nano generators. So for those who don't know what nano generators are, it's an upcoming field in renewable energy where small mechanical or sonic vibrations are tapped in as electrical energy. So I'm talking about human movement vibrations, rail track vibrations as the train approaches, or even like very small waves of the ocean. So stacking up graphene devices as piezoelectric materials in all these places could help in generating energy and build self-sufficient machines. So where did I start off? My most significant contribution with graphene would be when I was interning as a research intern in IIT Madras in the winter of 2019. I worked in the alternate energy and nanotechnology lab. And usually if you go to any nanotechnology lab, you will have something being done with graphene. And my work primarily focused on the chemical synthesis of graphene via a substance which is commonly found as graphite oxide. It's very cheap to get. It's not as costly as your usual other renewable energy substituents like indium titanium oxide or any other 2D materials like molybdenum sulfide, etc., etc. So chemical synthesis is more cheaper than mechanical synthesis also, and so it's becoming more and more popular in the industry side of fabrication of graphene. And I was able to do my little bit, a bit in helping the researchers there. Simultaneously, I also worked on lithium oxide batteries, which are generating more electricity per unit surface area in a battery with the use of carbon nanotube electrodes. So carbon nanotube electrodes, nothing but the big brother of graphene. You take a graphene sheet, which is 1 atom thick and which has no defects, and you just roll it on any one angle, and then you get carbon nanotube. It's as basic as that. That's why graphene is called the starting material for almost all carbon allotropes. Right. So you will not find many references for graphene in general because it's just a material, but there is a whole website dedicated to everything about graphene that you could possibly know in a website called as graphenia.com. And I highly recommend anybody who wants to know more of graphene to just by heart the whole website. You just go through the whole website and you'll know everything that's going on in graphene research. There are some really good books that I would suggest, mainly being Graphene, the Super Strong, Super Thin, and Super Versatile Material. It is a super material, and this book captures everything that graphene can possibly do in the world. I hope I've given you a good introduction about graphene, and maybe you can further find out what all this wonder material can do.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe and click on the bell button as to not miss out any content. Contact us here.